True or
Okay.
false? The winner of Alabama Texas A&M plays for the SEC championship.
Absolutely. Honest, because if Ole Miss were to go to Atlanta, they would need Alabama to lose
Yep.
twice. And I don't know if I see that taking place. And then Ole Miss just having a clear shot through the rest of the schedule. I mean, they still have to go to Georgia, which I actually think was one of the matchups that you and I talked about at the beginning of the season that we didn't really think it would be as fun as it could because Ole Miss would be pretty beat up. Now it almost looks like that may be happening in reverse, where they were beat up and then they're going to get healthy, and there may be some real intrigue to what they can do to that Georgia defense. Still have A&M as well. So, I think the winner of A&M, Alabama, in the driver's seat, especially now because we looked at that last game of the year for A&M. It's like, woo, LSU, that offense. Now I would probably think A&M be able to move the football a little bit against that group.
Yeah, I'm wholeheartedly yes on this. I ended up picking A&M really, really slight. No money on it or anything like that for me. Matchup, I think, favors Bama. We can talk about that in a second. Or favors A&M, but we can talk about that in a second. But I do want to offer the caveat, and if Bama does win this game, this is the part of the show that I will have Colin and Jesse replay Sunday, not the part where I picked A&M. I think if Bama wins this game, they won't lose the rest of the way. I think this is the toughest matchup they have remaining. It's not the highest ranked opponent, maybe not. I don't even know. I don't look at the AP. The JP, though, for the record, has A&M at number 12 right now. I believe they feel like, let me put it in meteorological terms so everyone can relate. You know how sometimes there's a low pressure tropical storm in the Caribbean? Sometimes it gets chopped up by the mountains there.
That.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. But if it doesn't get sheared apart by the mountainous terrain down there in Cuba and the like, and it gets out into the Gulf of Mexico, that's when you get your Jim Cantoris. That's when you get your James Spans, and they start sounding the alarm, and you see live crews all along the Gulf Coast because they know disaster is imminent. That is basically Alabama to me. You need to go full crowbar to the shins right now. Take them out while you can, because if you let them get past Texas A&M, and which to me is the most physical test left on their schedule till, ironically, Kentucky, I think. If you let them get their you-know-what together, they could end up being a problem that they otherwise wouldn't be if they had two losses. So I think this is, Nick Saban always likes to talk about the midterm final exam. For a lot of that team, this is their final exam. Because if they don't pass this weekend, it doesn't matter by their own standard what they do the rest of the way. Do you when you look at that game, by the way, I talked about it ad nauseum on the Tuesday night show. How do you think that thing matches up?
So you're saying that if Alabama wins this game, the rest of the West should go ahead and evacuate and just board up the windows?
Yes.
And go ahead and just get out of town?
Just wave the white paper, yes.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. And you pretend like people don't listen to your show. There is one bone that I have to pick with you from the Tuesday show. I believe you said on that show that this is the most difficult environment that Alabama will play in the rest of the way through the season?
I believe that, yeah.
And you were just where on Saturday?
I know where I was. I'm just saying I think the stakes in this game and the true belief that A&M can win. I don't think Auburn, by the end of the year, will believe they can win that game. I knew what I was saying. I get it. And maybe in the Iron Bowl of basketball, it will be tough for them down there this year. But I think in the Iron Bowl of football, and that's our own segment we're going to do in November, by the way, Iron Bowl of fill in the blank. But in the Iron Bowl of football this year, yeah, I think this is as tough as it's going to get for them this year. I just made an Auburn hype video in November. I know what I just did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to stay with this game, and I have a question because there's a portion of this game that I think people are ignoring, and it showed up like the spotlight was on it last weekend for Texas A&M, and people have just completely blown past it. Which quarterback do you trust the most in this game, and why? Not who's the best, not who has the better cast. I just want to know which individual between Jalen Milroe, Max Johnson, you trust the most, and why?
I trust Jalen Milroe more. I trust him because unlike early in the season, I think they have schooled him enough to where he understands throwing the ball 5 rows into the stands is a pretty good play and a pretty good decision. I think he trusts his legs. I think the whole live to play another down if the drive ends in a kick, yada, yada, yada thing, I think that's set in for him. I also think if they have any time to throw, A&M 30 yards or more in the air is vulnerable. And so to me, the throwaway with him could also be just throw it as far as I possibly can. And if my receiver happens to get under the ball, that's great. But by and large, we're not really high risk. We're high reward, low risk on that throw. With Max Johnson, I think they're going to put the game on his shoulders. I don't think that staff is scared, let me say that, to put the game on his shoulders. Sometimes with him, I worry about the processing speed. Just a hair, worry about the processing speed, and I worry that this game this week is faster for him than anything he's faced so far. So I think I favor Milroe, although if you put the arm talent versus arm talent, I don't think many people would go Milroe. Arm talent, you know what I mean when I say that.
The last guy you just saw in your highlight clip right there, not the one catching the football, the one that was running the ball before. See, I agree with what you say about this staff potentially putting it in Max's hands. I think it's time to feed Le'Veon Moss because I saw things from him in that Arkansas game that showed me he could be a legitimate feature back in the SEC. So if you have that, a pretty good offensive line, a good group of tight ends, receivers that you could take your shot plays with down the field off play action later, why do you put the ball in the hands of a kid that fumbled it and lost them both twice last week and threw a pick and has 13 fumbles and 7 interceptions over the last 2 seasons? That's the part of Max's game that I'm concerned about. And when I talk about protecting the football, I roll into that protecting himself as well. Keep in mind, Josh, we're on quarterback 2 now. And you may be quarterback 1 at the present time, but if you were to go out, now we go quarterback 3, which most people in College Station probably couldn't even tell you who that is. So for the season, you must protect yourself in a better fashion. And obviously to win this game, you must protect the football in a better fashion. And if the winner of this game is going to go win the West, then for your season, you have to protect the football as well. So I have a little bit of trust issue with how Max Johnson protects himself and the football. If he keeps it clean, I think A&M wins the game.
Do you have a model for that? Can you project turnovers for me?
Yeah, the model would be about 9 glass eaters that are going to be playing along the defensive line for Texas A&M, 2 or 3 for Alabama. Each team will probably turn it over more than once.
Okay. All right. So back to square one.